Hi, we've made this video to make it easier for you to navigate the DAKSH High Court data portal. Over the last year, the DAKSH team has been cleaning and analyzing about 1.15 crore cases drawn from 23 out of the 25 high courts of India. Thus far, only Delhi and Madhya Pradesh have not yet been brought into our analysis. As a part of the data portal, the first project that's being put out is one that focuses on writ cases drawn from six of the high courts from 2010 to 2019, so from about a period of a decade. This video is going to go over the three sections of the portal: approach, the dashboard, and the open data section. So the approach section goes over the methodology that's used to kind of clean and decide which records are usable, both in terms of the case table, which is a higher level table that provides information about when cases were filed, what their current status is, what types and what subject matter they deal with, as well as the hearing table, which takes a more detailed view as to when particular hearings were held, how delayed they may have been, how many days were between that and the previous hearing, which judge was actually presiding over particular hearings. And so there is a note that is available right here that will provide details as to how the six high courts were actually selected, what fields are available in the case table, as well as the hearing table, and kind of where we see this project going as well. Is also it takes an overview of the data preparation. In terms of how we actually selected writ petitions and associated cases to be the first iteration of the DAKSH High Court data portal, we realized that writs actually make up a large proportion of high court cases across this decade in many of the high courts we were looking at. So this percentage is, again, it's from this 10-year period, both years inclusive. 2019 was selected on purpose because it is, again, the last year that most courts were functioning normally across the year before the pandemic really came in and changed a lot of these trends, meaning that we need to look in a very different way for analysis. This section also gives an overview as to which case types were actually considered by us to be writ cases. And you can see that variation from a state like Kerala, where you can see writ appeal is a separate section and you do have kind of a wider range of case types. Writ appeal is only really separately considered in Kerala and Sikkim, but also in a state like, let's say, Orissa. Yeah, where you only have two case types that were really considered to be writs. So we did this selection of case types by looking at high court notifications and by speaking with practicing lawyers in the high courts in these particular states. The second part of this project is the visualizer. Yeah, the second part of this project is a visualizer, which offers, there we go, which offers a way to kind of get a sense as to the year-on-year filing trend of writ cases in absolute, both for these six high courts taken together, as well as individual high courts within them. It also provides an overview as to the breakdown of cases that were disposed and pending on the date that we scraped the data. So that would have been roughly March of 2021, about a year ago. There we go. So it's just going to show the breakdown where the yellow part of the bar is those that were still pending as of the date that we scraped the data. So you can look at different high courts and see kind of which ones have a greater share of pending cases from the earlier years versus the others. Writ cases were chosen specifically because the respondent is always a government actor. And so it tells us a lot about how citizens actually try and hold the government accountable through the judiciary. And so one of the interesting things is while a number of respondents will be named in the petition, only the first one that is named will actually be recorded by NJDG as the respondent. And so this is why we've kind of referred to this as the primary respondent. You can see that a major chunk will always be something generic like Union of India or state. But as you look at these smaller areas, you will see different PSUs, you will see different departments and public utilities. If you want to go back out from Orissa, you can do that. There we go. Look at another state. Yeah, With Jammu and Kashmir, you can very clearly see different state departments that are coming in, and get a sense as to which government departments and representatives are actually being named in the PILs, the habeas corpus cases, the writ cases that are being filed across the High Court. Next, visualizations specifically have to do with disposed cases, not the total number of cases. And so with the disposed cases, we were looking at what are the number of hearings that are usually taken in order to clear cases. Across these six courts, that median number is 3. But also, if you go back and forth between different high courts, you'll see that that variation of the median is 4 in Uttarakhand. I believe it's higher in Sikkim. No, it's not. There we go. It's 7 in Sikkim. But writ petitions in general, we usually think of disposal in terms of calendar days. So we found it useful and interesting to think of it in terms of hearings. And then kind of considering those gaps between the hearings, the number of days between hearings, as a very real contributor to the number of days that a case may be pending. We also look at, so there are thousands and thousands of distinct purposes of hearing in the hearing table, which you can go and have a look at. Researchers at DAKSH mapped them down to these 8. Admission, of course, across the board is what is the single largest map stage, but we also did have a very large chunk of these stages that we were unable to map into any other distinct stage. And so either it was inconclusive, there were too many things going on in the description of the purpose of that particular hearing. And so this is something that's actually quite a divergence from what we've previously seen with subordinate court data. I also wanted to take you down to the last one, which shows the stacked distribution in terms of we broke down the number of calendar days that were taken for disposal into 5 time periods. 3 months, 3 to 6 months, roughly 6 months to a year, roughly 1 to 2 years, and greater than 2 years. And as you can see, the percentage of Gujarat's cases, about 74% of them were actually cleared within 3 months, and a much smaller share were pending after 2 years. Whereas a state like Sikkim is one that has Sikkim or even Jammu and Kashmir has a fewer percentage in this under 3 month time period. So yeah, we found it interesting to look at the across the board. You can also get a sense of the absolute number of cases from this decade that were disposed and that took, as we said, 1 to 2 years to actually be disposed. So highest number again, Orissa and Jammu and Kashmir in the absolute. The third element of the data portal is something that we're all very excited about, and this is our first attempt to make our actual cleaned data files, data sets, available to researchers. So we will ask for a few basic details, and then what we'll do is you get redirected to a page where you can either access the hearing level, yeah, or the case level tables, the files directly. So the hearing ones are much heavier, which is why they're all zipped. You will have one that's a compiled file as well as separate files for each of the 6 high courts. And then at the case level, yeah, so you can see something like Sikkim, the 29 fields that we were speaking about earlier are here, directly available, downloadable as a CSV file for you to do your own analysis with. We're extremely excited to see where this goes, how different people actually make use of this portal. And so if you do have any feedback or any comments for us, do contact us at info@dakshindia.org. We'd love to hear your comments. Thank you so much and happy exploring.